Good morning, friends. This is Dr. Nitin Kumar Sharma from Sri Maniklal M. Patel Institute of Sciences and Research, Constituent College of Kadi Sarovar Viswavidyalaya. Dear students, uh, I hope you and your family are very well in this pandemic situation. As you know, due to lockdown, we cannot go to our colleges and have to maintain social distancing. Due to this, I am taking this lecture online. Hope you all will enjoy this lecture, and if you have any doubt, then please let me know in the personal chats. Now we will start the lecture. Basically, this lecture is related to your inorganic chemistry. The subject code is CH201, and the unit is unit 3. Unit number is 3. The name of this unit is organometallic compounds. I am going to talk about the transition metal organometallic compounds and catalysis. This is a part of this unit, and it is very important for the examination point of view. So let's discuss about this unit in detail. Uh, if you will see that the topic name is transition metal organometallic compound and catalysis, that means we have to discuss the transition metal which is involved or responsible to form the organometallic compounds, and that organometallic compound will which further will be utilized in different catalytic processes. As you know, the scope of chemistry in industries are very high, so the role of catalyst is very you need to know the role of catalyst, which is very important from the industry point of view as well as from the your examination point of view. So we will discuss in detail. Suppose, dear student, here you can see there is some problem. uh, uh, Here you can see that transition metal organometallic compound. If you will see that which was the first organometallic compound, that was AH2Me4 dicarbodyl compound, which was invented by Alcide Cadet in 1760. He was a French chemist. He first reported this compound. After that, many compound came in this section. You all are very aware about the nickel tetracarbonyl compound or sodium cyanide compound. If if we will talk about the multiple organometallic compound, then one thing we should know that the chemistry behind the organometallic compound, that is the metal carbon bond. That means any of the organometallic compound is necessary to have at least one metal carbon bond. That is also the definition of the organometallic compound. So here we will consider only about those molecules which have at least one metal carbon bond. That means here you can see one is the rhenium compound, which have rhenium carbonyl bond, rhenium CS3 bond, rhenium PR3 bond, and rhenium alkene bond. So all these bond, if you will see, then here is multiple rhenium carbon or metal carbon bond is present. That's why this molecule will be considered as a organometallic compound. The second is the two metal containing organometallic compound. Those organometallic compound which have more than one metal atom can be considered as a bridging metal if they are connected with directly metal metal bond, or they may not be connected by the metal metal bond. That means if a two metal is connected with either a metal metal bond or any of the bridging bond, that molecule will comes under the category of organometallic compound only when it is having at least one metal carbon bond. Now, the third example is a very famous one, that is the RHPPS3Cl. You all are aware about this molecule. Here you can see that rhenium molecule is attached with three triphosphine group, and one is the chloride group. If you will see this structure, it is a basically square planar structure. Total number of electron which is present in this molecule is 16, and it is a very good catalyst. It was invented by the Wilkinson catalyst. We will talk about this molecule in detail because it is a part of our syllabus in the coming slides. So here again, if we will go for the closer view of these organometallic compound, then we can see here that molecular hydrogen, when the molecular hydrogen, I am talking about the molecular hydrogen, that means one H2 molecule. That means one H2 molecule, if attached with the metal atom, that is also a type of metal hydride bond, a metal hydrogen bond, or the metal hydride bond. That means one hydrogen atom which is having a negative charge on hydrogen atom, that can combine with the metal, and that will give a metal hydride bond. Same way we have metal phosphine bond, same way we have metal carbonyl bond, same way we have alkyl aryl metal bond, or in the last we have metal carbene metal alkene bond. That means a symmetrical alkene or a non-symmetrical alkene can also be attached with the metal. This type of attachment is only happening because the metal which you are seeing here, it is basically electron deficient center. That means metal acts as an electron deficient center, and the ligand which is coming to bind with the molecule which is coming to bind with metal should have at least more electron. That means it should be a electron efficient center, and we are all aware, if a electron deficient center is there, if a electron efficient center is there, definitely there will be a metal carbon or ligand metal bond will occur. These are the types of organometallic compound, and these are the type of bonding which can happen in the organometallic compound. So here the most important rule is coming, that is the 18 electron rule. If you will see that 18 electron rule are very basic concept, and if you will see that what is the 18 electron molecule and how we can implement this in the organometallic compound, that is a calculation type or a mathematical calculation based phenomena. That means according to this rule, all the organometallic compound all the organometallic compound which is having at least 18 valence electron, and that molecule will be considered as a stable one. That means that molecule will not prefer to react with any of the reactant. And all those organometallic compound which is not having 18 electron, total valence electron is 18, they will prefer to react with the molecule and would like to be a 18 electron molecule. Here if you will go for the principle, then you can see here that stable low oxidation state complexes are found to have a total of 18 electron molecule. That means metal electron plus lone pair from the ligands. That means the total valence electron of the metal and the total number of electron is coming from the ligand. If you will do the addition of these two electrons, you will get the total electron count of that molecule. For example, if I talk about the nickel tetracarbonyl complex or iron pentacarbonyl complex, you can see here that the nickel has the basic valence configuration is 4s2 3d8. That means total 10 electron from the nickel valence cell, and carbonyl is also responsible for 2 electron donation. That means one carbonyl is responsible for 2 electron donation, and total 4 carbonyl in nickel tetracarbonyl is in nickel carbon tetracarbonyl, all CO atom contributing total 2 into 4, that means 8 electron. If you will count the total electron count in nickel tetracarbonyl, then you will find that total 18 electron is present in nickel tetracarbonyl. In the same way, you can calculate for the iron pentacarbonyl, chromium hexacarbonyl complex. All are the 18 electron molecule, and they are the stable one. In few cases this concept is not applicable, and those molecule will come in the coming slides. Then here whatever I said in the previous slide, that how you can count the number of electrons present in a molecule, in organometallic molecule. So how you can do this, you have to calculate the overall charge on the metal complex. Now the charge of the ligand bound to the metal center. Now know the number of electron being donated to the metal center from each ligand, and add the electron count for the metal center and ligands, and you will get the total electron count, total valence electron count of that particular organometallic compound. And then after you can say that this molecule will be a stable one or not. So this is all about the 18 electron rule. Now here I will tell you that how we can count the number of electron. That means how we will know that this molecule will give 1 electron, this molecule will give 2 electron, or this ligand will give 1 electron, this ligand will give 2 or 3 or n electron. So here you can see that if you have a molecular hydrogen, that means a molecular hydrogen is made up of 2 electron. That means when a molecular hydrogen will attach with the metal, then it will give a 2 electron to the metal center. That means the hydrogen atom which is having in it, the number of electron which is having in its valence shell, that is 2, and it will donate all 2 electron to the metal center. In the same way, if you will talk about the hydride ion, so hydride, that means H minus ion, 1 electron from the hydrogen nucleus and 1 from its charge, and total 2 electron will be donated. Here the formal charge for the MH bond is -1. Okay, now amine, phosphine, arsine, carbonyl, aryl, alkyl, in the same way you can see here, and you can calculate all these things. Okay, so now we will move in the next slide. Here you can see that here I am taking one example, that FeCO5. FeCO5, that means iron atom is surrounded by the 5 carbonyl atom. If you will calculate the total number of valence electron in the iron atom, then you will get 4s2 3d6 is the valence electronic configuration, and total electron will be 8 electron. If you will consider the carbonyl atom, then there is a total 5 carbonyl atom which is directly attached with the iron atom, and each carbonyl atom is responsible for 2 electron donation. Then the total number of electron is total number of carbonyl is 5, then that means 5 into 2 is equal to 10 electron. And if you will add both 2 electron, that means 8 electron and 10 electron, you will get a 18 electron molecule, and that will be a stable one molecule. In the same way, you can calculate this RHPPS3Cl, that is a Wilkinson catalyst. If you will calculate the total number of electron in this molecule, then you can see here RH has S1D8 valence electron configuration. That means total number of valence electron is 9, because it belongs to the that family. And since 1Cl gave -1, and RH has a +1 oxidation state in this molecule, and the 3 ligand from the phosphine will give you 2 electron. That means total number of electron will be 16. Okay, so this is not a stable molecule. That means it will go for the further reaction. It will be oxidized, and it will form a octahedral molecule, and its valency will be total valence electron will be 18 electron. Now here you can see that I have one transition metals series, or you can see here D block elements. So here if you will see here, the middle transition metal 18 electron configuration are common. That means in chromium family and magnesium family and iron family, there is the 18 electron configuration are common. That means all the organometallic compound which is made up of all these 3 groups are basically generally 18 electron molecule, and its geometries are coordination geometries of 6 are common. That means they basically prefer to form octahedral or square planar geometries. Here if you will see that last 3 groups of transition metal complexes, that is they basically prefer to form 18 electron molecule, and its geometries are it may be a trigonal bipyramidal, it may be square planar monopyramidal, it may be octahedral too. So these are the possibilities where you can get the prior information about the shape and geometry of that molecule and total electron count of that particular molecule, which is made up of all these metals ion. Now if I am going to talk about the reaction, let's see, some problem is here. Just wait for 1 minute. I will show you the clear one. Just wait for a second, there is some problem. I will open it again. And then you will be able to understand what is basically. Actually there is some screen share problem, so I am again going to open that particular slide. This is the slide. Now just for a second, this is about to ready. hmm. so so here we are. I will go to that particular slide. Just wait for a second. So we were here. Suppose we have a reaction, that means two reactant A and B are going to form a product C. So there is the multiple reaction can take place in this slide. That means uh, if you will see here, here is a reactant, here is the product, and if a reaction is proceed, means A and B are react with each other, then if we are taking proceeding this reaction without catalyst, then the activation energy, that means the energy required to form the most unstable state in this reaction, that will be a activation energy. So if we are proceeding this reaction in absence of catalyst, then the activation energy for the formation of most unstable transition state are very high. But we are if we are including this uh, if we are including this catalyst for this reaction, then the activation energy for this particular reaction will be lower, and the product formation will be easy. That means the energy and the time and the reaction comfortability will be more spontaneous in case of catalyst, if the catalyst is completely and the most important thing in the catalyst, that after finishing the reaction, the catalyst will be removed from the system. And this will definitely will control by the kinetics of the reaction, where the thermodynamics of this reaction is will not change in this type of reaction. That means here we can easily understand that when how the catalyst is important in any of the chemical reaction. That means if we are implementing any of the catalyst, that means that time the reaction progress, the rate of reaction, and the activation energy for the formation of the most unstable transition state is very low. That means in presence of catalyst, a chemical reaction can proceed in a very spontaneous manner. Now we will go for the next slide. Then now you should know that why catalysis is important. Currently, if you will see in the current developing world and nation, you can see here that the reaction which is taking place in the several time, or it is consuming lot of chemicals, and it is giving up a very lower yield, and such type of thing. That means in the pharmaceutical agency, in the agriculture field, in the environmental field, we have to design such catalyst which can trigger the rate of reaction, which can reduce the activation energies, and which can give a more suitable product for that particular reaction. So that for that thing we have to develop some efficient catalyst. Efficient catalyst, that means those catalyst which is very efficient for that particular type of reaction. If we are proceeding that particular reaction with an efficient catalyst, then the reaction progress will be higher, and the product yield will be good, and reaction consumption, time consumption, all will be lower. So that means with the in the presence of catalyst, if you are proceeding in a reaction, then the total economics and the finance of that particular reaction will be lower. Now how to select an efficient catalyst, that is also an important point, that how we can select, how we will know that for this type of reaction this catalyst will be good, and for this type of reaction this catalyst will be good. For that we have to know about the turnover frequency and turnover number. These two parameters will decide that how this catalyst is suitable for your reaction, and how this catalyst is not suitable for your reaction. That will come in the coming slide, that what is the turnover frequency and what is the turnover number, that we will discuss in the coming slides. How the second parameter is the selectivity. Then those catalysts will be considered as an efficient catalyst, which will not give the byproduct, or will minimize the production of byproducts. Also, it is costly to replace the catalyst frequently. That means if you have designed one catalyst for a particular reaction, so time to time you cannot change that catalyst, because the designing of catalyst is also a very tough job. So if we are designing one catalyst, or we are selecting an efficient catalyst, that time we have to consider all the things, all the parameters, to design the most appropriate and most economic catalyst, which could be utilized in the future and the current situation. Now we will go for the coordination, compounds in catalysis, and Nobel prizes. So here you can see that Robert H. Grubbs in 2005 he got the Nobel Prize in coordination, and Richard R. Sharp also got the product. Then Novari Sharpless got the Nobel Prize in 2001. In 1973, Wilkinson, that is RHPPS3CL, that is the most important topic in our group. So he also got the Nobel Prize in 1973. Again, the Ziegler-Natta, everyone knows Ziegler-Natta catalysis for the polymerization, got the Nobel Prize in 1963. Again, the Haber got the Nobel Prize in 1988. Ostwald got in 1909. All these scientists are got their Nobel Prize just for their contribution in the organometallic compound and its catalysis. So whatever I talk about the Wilkinson catalyst, that depends upon the hydrogenation of unsaturated hydrocarbon. That means any of the alkene, either symmetrical or unsymmetrical, will combine with the hydrogen in presence of Wilkinson catalyst, will convert into alkene. That means hydrogenation will occur. And he got a Nobel Prize in 2001 also. The most common catalyst is the Wilkinson catalyst, that is RHPPS3. So here we are going to stop, and we will go for the Wilkinson catalysis in our next slide. And for that, till now, enjoy this lecture, and stay at your home, and read it properly to your lectures. And if you have any further doubt, then contact me in the personal chat. Thank you so much.